Enzo. Oh, this is probably too long for a voice note.
Hey Claire, I know. Save it for the podcast.
Your space for an unfiltered and candid conversation.
Skip the small talk and dive in deep.
Hi, she's Claire.
And he's Enzo.
And this is too long for a voice note.
Hello.
What I did this, who
Welcome
knows?
back.
Welcome back. Hello. Sorry
Here
for the
we
listeners, I was
are.
doing weird hand gestures for
gestures.
no reasons. But yeah, I'm so excited to be here
For another fresh episode.
Another episode.
It's warm, isn't it?
It's thanks God.
It's currently July when we're filming. And,
yeah.
whew,
Thanks
it's warm.
God it's getting warmer in London City.
London City.
How are you, Claire?
I'm good. We're back. We actually haven't filled you in on because episode 1 we were doing more kind of podcast admin.
Yes.
But we actually, on the break, we both went on trips.
Exciting trips. Long trips. You went to like a really cool place. Like tell
we
us
went to
more.
Japan, which was honestly incredible. Like it was always a dream of mine to go to Japan.
Of course.
You have to go, honestly. You will genuinely. You
Wish
will
list,
love it.
like mine.
But yeah, we went to Tokyo, Hakone, Kyoto, and Osaka.
Which one's your favorite from all of those?
Tokyo.
Amazing. Yeah. Oh my God, it looks so good.
I loved it.
Yeah.
It's very vibey. I really, really like it. And it's a very unique country because I feel like, the culture was kind of like, they were quite closed. So they've got quite a lot of their traditions, like
Intact,
preserved
right?
and everything.
Do you feel they really defend
I think so.
what
I
they
think
are,
it's-
who they
yeah.
are, and the
I
traditions?
think it's quite a closed kind of society. I'm
Interesting.
not sure how easy it might be if you live there and you're from like a different culture, for example.
Right.
And I went
I wanna
to
go.
Korea as well, which I adore.
Amazing.
I could easily live in Seoul. I love it. I love it.
Oh my God, love it.
It's
I
got
was
a very
like,
cool vibe.
don't you dare to go so fucking far.
I wouldn't.
Like-
Really? No, I wouldn't. Like, my mum would literally murder me. Can you imagine if my mum was like, Mum, I'm moving to Seoul? She'd
Seoul,
be like, you're disowned. But no, I love Seoul. Like, I think you would love it. It's very good shopping, very trendy, good
Nice.
coffee shops.
It seems to be also the fashion, right? It's like next level.
super
It
cool.
seems.
It's your week
It's
this
my week. So this is my week.
So ready for?
Okay.
Okay, what's your topic? I've got literally no idea. Literally no idea.
Okay, so my topic this week, I want to talk about something like, it's really chitty chatty. It's very like chitty chatty. And I think we refer to this quite a lot. It's kind of like very part of our language and maybe our generation language as
I think
well.
I know what it is. But
Let's see.
go.
So I want to talk about cringe.
Oh, I didn't think that's what it was going to be
Cringe.
about.
I want to go from some definitions and like, and then talk about how do we feel about it? What do you think? What do we think it is, and all of that, right? So basically, cringe is defined like some sort of like physical discomfort without something. It's like a physical discomfort without something actually happening to your body. So it's a discomfort, but nothing actually really is creating it, like an external factor, like a. It's not like someone is pushing you. You feel
Okay,
discomfort.
yeah.
So it's something like internal
an
in a way.
emotion, basically.
Yeah. So basically, it's caused by regularly for a secondhand embarrassment, and basically, it's like when someone acts or says or does something else that you fundamentally disagree with. So that was come from when you fundamentally disagree with something that it's happening or someone is doing. You feel like discomfort, and that's where the cringe comes from, right? So there's like a lot of like obviously interpretation of it. For some people, cringe are something it's cringy or it makes you cringe when it's unfunny, for example, like makes you feel uncomfortable about it. So you have an uncomfortable reaction, which also I didn't know. I was looking also like I wanted to know like the definition, like real definition of cringe. And for American English, like is to draw back, bench, and crouch. And feeling afraid and acting timid as well. So cringe means that. I didn't know that. I was like, all right. For you, what do you feel is cringe? How can you something like almost like a body reaction? How do you define it? Like how that's for you? How it is your experience with cringing?
Interesting. It's good to actually think about it because it's something that's so common, like you say. It's like so part of our language.
Yeah.
I think it's probably embarrassment. I would say like that's something that I think of when I think of cringe. Embarrassment for the other person.
Yeah.
I would say, or I guess embarrassment for me, but I think I'm like, oh my God, they're so cringe,
They're
or
so
that's
cringe.
so cringe, or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would think of it as like a kind of uncomfortable, but not that deep, but embarrassing
That's a
thing.
good thing. It doesn't seem to be maybe that deep
No.
sometimes. But then I was discussing this with my boyfriend, and we're talking like about like a bit deeper of like how and why do we feel cringe. And actually we were coming to the conclusion, I was thinking a lot about this, like how it may be connected to actually some deep stuff. Like it probably it's connected with our cultural backgrounds, with what we like and what we not, what do we think is acceptable and what is not. We cringe because we have a response of something that we don't like, but it's like way deeper because we kind of make it feel like our bodies like have a reaction,
reacting,
right?
Kind of, and I think that's probably where it comes from, because if the definition is to like shrink yourself or to like withdraw, I think that's what it is. That's probably what it feels like. It's like, oh God, cringe kind of thing.
Also, when you feel about yourself.
Yeah,
and like
totally.
you cringe about yourself.
Yeah.
It's kind of like...
But I guess it is something to do with like, is it like something about like low self-esteem or...
There was something about that, what I read.
Something
about,
along those lines.
It's also, they mentioned something interesting because, you know, like we always, I think sometimes me and you, we think like, oh yeah, we can be cringe, or like, but it's fine. Or like, oh, like that meme that is like, I'm cringe, but at least I'm free.
Yeah,
There's like
yeah.
a cow in the middle of something, like it's really
Yeah.
funny. But then this person, actually like a psychologist, she was quoting like, for example, like Taylor Swift, actually her brand, it's very around the idea of own your cringiness, and that's why I say she's been so successful with her career.
That's so interesting.
Because it appeals to many people that maybe they're, you know, sometimes people are afraid to be just silly or to just be like corny, whatever that means. But her biggest appeal is that. I think we have spoken about this before, not in front of the podcast, but like in our lives.
Not in front of the
camera. So yeah, what's your relationship with it, and how you maybe overcome it, or you made it part of who you are, and to all of that?
I definitely think that I am somebody who cringes quite easily and quite a lot, and I think
I
agree.
Yeah, very like I cringe with that.
I think I really cringe at that, and I think that's definitely something that I've gotten better at as I've gotten older, because I think what it is maybe that you don't accept yourself as much when you're younger, and I think like a lot of things when you get older, you kind of like, oh well, whatever, like if I might be a bit cringe, but whatever, you know, it doesn't really matter. So I think that one thing that I think has helped me actually about cringing is because I would honestly spend so much time cringing or regretting, because I think cringing is kind of like you were saying, it's kind of this like retrospective thing. So it's taking you out of the present, which isn't ideal. So I think two things that have helped me. Number one is probably so like, but whatever. Meditation has really helped me, because I've been meditating very regularly every single day for like a few years now. And I'm not the most like amazing at being in the present at all, but that's something I really try to develop. And I think when you're cringing, you're thinking about the past in a way,
that's a
because
really
you're
good
replaying
point.
scenarios.
You're replaying
a
scenario,
and you don't want to be living in the past necessarily. And then the other thing is that I think we always think that people are thinking about us a lot more than they are. They really are not.
100%.
So there's like a million things that I can think of now that I'd be like, oh my God, that's so cringe. I think if I said that to you, you'd be like, wait, when did you say that?
Yeah. And
it's the same, probably. And that's just the truth. Like, people don't think about us nearly as much as we think they do. Unless it's like, well, that's fucking cringe. Like, and it might be in the moment, maybe. But I just don't think people spend that much time. So I think it's kind of like a waste of energy.
Yeah, definitely.
Not to be whatever. I mean, I am an embarrassing person. I think I can be really, really cringe. But I don't know. It's just kind of that thing of, letting it go. And
I just find, it's a kind of like... it's a limiting feeling. I feel like it limits you a lot. Like when you have to think about, oh, I'm not gonna do this or say this because it's cringe, or I'm not gonna like do the TikTok dance because I felt, it's gonna be cringe for myself, you know. But why you don't do the TikTok? But
exactly.
My point is about this, like where this actually comes from, right? Like why do we have this feeling of like going in and feeling like I want to die now because it's so horrible? And that made me think like, obviously what you were saying, but also like when it goes to when we see things, for example, like, which I guess it's related to taste, right? Like if we see someone doing something tacky, we can be like, oh, that's so cringy, right? That makes me cringe. But then that makes you cringe because it's not aligned with your values.
What makes you cringe first?
I have a list of questions to ask you about, like, about like different scenarios that makes you cringe. But yeah, like we can talk about that. Like, things that makes me cringe is like, for example, when people are like overly cheesy, that makes me cringe. I feel like that's like so like, or I don't know, like if you take a photo with Jorge and it's gonna be like a rose heart behind you, you're gonna be like, oh, that's so cringy. But again, why is it cringy if they're enjoying their moment,
Exactly.
living their love with a heart behind them? You know, is it bad?
Do you
What
think
is it
it's
bad?
because of like we secretly want the things that we cringe at?
That's a good question.
Do you think that that might be something? Do you think it's like a jealousy element?
That's an interesting point. I don't know if.
I personally don't feel that that's a case for me, but I'm just asking. Like, I'm
It's
wondering.
interesting. I think no, I don't really think in my case either like it's from jealousy or like do I want that or something.
Yeah.
I think it's more because I don't know. Maybe it's linked of like when something it's so like cliches, for example, they can feel cringy, but it's that feeling of like why we are so judgmental of things like maybe others liked, for example.
I don't know. It's such an interesting emotion in a way.
Kind of like
cringing.
an emotion. Yeah.
Because, what is it?
Have you felt like limited in your decisions of daily life just because you think about the cringe you will have in the future?
Totally. Yeah, totally. I think that I have definitely been very, like, for example, I think that, and I still think I can have that as well. And I think that probably, I think what it maybe is kind of like a low self-esteem thing when it's, when it's cringing about yourself. And maybe when you're cringing about others, but I think with yourself, I think it's like a low self-esteem.
Yeah.
Because I think that there's probably more that I would do or put out. Social media can make me cringe a lot. That's something that I think I've really worked on.
Yeah.
And like to the point where I literally couldn't post anything without getting reassurance from a friend.
I remember those times.
You remember
Yeah,
those
bless.
times? I had to talk about it in
bless.
therapy. And now,
Yeah.
look at me.
You're like,
Sometimes I need some reassurance and I'm like...
which is fine.
oh, like,
Everyone needs.
Because, like sometimes it's like, oh, is that like filter a bit like Botoxy or something like that? And when it's your own face, you're like, oh, is that like whatever? But social media is something that I think I can cringe at. So I think sometimes I can hold myself back there because of not wanting to be cringe to other people. But the truth is, someone will always find you cringe.
Always.
There's always, and you're always going to find someone cringe. And someone will find you really cool. But there's always, whatever you do, someone is going to find that cringe.
I love that because it's kind of like a good baseline to kind of like have, or like somewhere good to sit at. It's important to work through this feeling because this feeling is something that can really limit yourself. And if you really actually go through it and you really fight it, you can actually like, you can learn much more about you. So kind of like why you feeling that, where is that coming from, and what really like it's the reason behind it. And then like same like, you know, maybe sometimes we feel like, oh, doing that would be a bit strange, very cringe, and we block ourselves to do more things and explore that.
Totally.
So things like how like a feeling like this can limit your life and you evolution as a person, or like your interrelationships, or like how it's interesting how this can go more than just like saying, oh, that's cringe.
Yeah.
You know,
completely.
So like it's quite like,
no, it's quite, it can be quite deep in a way. And it's kind of like that limiting mindset, limiting belief in a way.
Yeah.
I do think
it's limiting beliefs, you're right. Like, it's kind of connected to limiting beliefs in a way.
I do think it's good to have a bit of a
Decency.
cringe radar.
Like, it's good to have a bit of decency, please, guys.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think it's like, I think you need someone to tell you like, that's cringe. I appreciate that if you tell me that's cringe, for example.
But then that's linked to like, the person that you expect them to tell you if you're having cringe or not, they have the same set of values and views as you.
Yeah, totally.
Because for example, like again, like I don't know, like wedding proposals with hearts and flowers and things like that, I find them cringe. And maybe I will find reassurance from you because it's cringe. But if I go with someone that doesn't have that set of values or views, they will think like, no, that's beautiful. For you, what could be like a relationship cringe? Without throwing Jorge under the bus.
Okay.
But what, or maybe it could be other relationships. What gives you a cringe in a relationship context?
Setting. I think like when I think I can struggle when it's like very overly emotional. Ooh. Or very like, like a bit too, like my love language is definitely not like words of affirmation. I don't need a lot of, you need to communicate with your partner, of course. And I love like good conversations. I'm not saying that I don't need that. But like, yeah, like if someone's like, it's nice to do that. Occasionally I try to do that a little bit as well, but try to be like, you mean so much to me. You're like the most amazing person that I ever met. I'm like,
I will imagine you cringing about.
Oh,
That's something literally would think you would cringe about. Like, no.
I think I can struggle a little bit with that.
It's funny. You don't think you're maybe limiting yourself of being like loved and appreciated in a really like open way?
Definitely.
Maybe.
And I think that would be difficult. Like my boyfriend's love language is not that either. So I think that's good because I feel like if you're with somebody, if I was with somebody who really express love through words of affirmation, I think I would struggle a little bit like that. Whereas my love language is like my top one is quality time.
Quality time. Yeah.
And then physical touch, which is basically the same for me and my boyfriend, which is quite
That's
good.
interesting, yeah.
So I think like I can express through like little hugs and like touching and all of that kind of stuff. And then also like through spending time with someone, like that's the best. Especially like uninterrupted phone, like time when someone puts their phone away. If they're with me, I love that, you know, like I really, I think that's like so good, but I can really like, I should really struggle with words.
Interesting.
But I think
I love
that yeah, like that's something I've tried to get better with as I've gotten older, and I try to tell people in my life, like, like even I told you the other day, and I was like,
it's true.
and I was like, I just want to say, I really appreciate you as a friend over WhatsApp. Literally about nothing. Literally weren't even talking about anything. I was just like, I really love him. And I was like, let me tell him that. And then I was like, cringe. I think I followed it by cringe, didn't I?
You put the cringe?
I think I did.
Yeah, you put cringe. So.
I need to work on this in therapy. What about you? Like, what would you find cringe in a relationship?
I think like people when they are too corny, that bothers me.
What's corny
cringe.
to you?
Corny like all the time, like, oh my god, yes, yeah, I think oh no, babe, oh no, yeah, you're feeling okay. Oh my, it's like I want to die right now, like, you know what I mean? It's like fucking hell. I really cringe about that. It makes me feel like you're not dealing with a dog, you know.
Exactly,
it's good when obviously when you're intimacy with your boyfriend or girlfriend, whatever, you have those moments that are very like whatever, but that's different to like. I think exposing that, for me, it's I feel like I need to expose all the love I have for the other person so everyone knows that I love this person.
So it's like other people knowing.
That's what I feel that makes me cringe. Like, I don't care. You know, I feel when people are really forcing to show that they love for the other person in that way, for me, it really bothers me. It's like, I feel like very cringe.
Okay, interesting.
So, yeah. So, and in friendships, what will make you cringe? What type of attitude of like situation or like, I don't know, it could be anything, like it make you cringe
in friendships. I think one thing that it's like I don't like it, but it also weirdly makes me cringe, is lying.
Ooh,
in a way, because if I catch someone in a lie, or I find out that someone has lied, I find that really cringe for some reason. Or at least it's the same physical experience that I find.
Oh, wow.
Because I think I know what it is. I think it's because then I think, I thought we were better than that. Oh. And in a friendship, that's really important. I think it's like, I didn't think you would like do me like that, you know? Right. So I think that can make me cringe.
And it probably makes you cringe about your own self, thinking that, it's like, makes you think like how naive you were.
Or like I put myself higher than I thought. Yeah. That can make me cringe.
Ooh, yeah. I agree with that.
I think jealousy amongst other friends can make me cringe as well. Yeah. I find that very cringe. It's like, why? Like, we're too old. Like, that kind of thing. I find that really like, ooh, no.
I think for me it would be the same in friendships. Like, jealousy or like feeling like overly like dominating, territorial, kind of, that makes me cringe. It's like, I'm not your object, you know, that type of things. I think those things that you have when you're younger, you know.
Completely.
Like nowadays when you see like in friendships that type of like probably come from insecurity or things like that we have, right? But that type of things on friendship that really makes me cringe, because it's kind of like we're friends. There shouldn't be a space for feeling like that.
Totally.
But layers, right? At work, what makes you feel cringe at work?
Gosh, Well, I cried at work. I spoke about this in our crying episode.
Like, cringe is it's gone now. Like, there's no way to have cringe.
So if you haven't checked out our after this episode,
it's really interesting. Like,
watch that episode.
Yeah.
But that was something that I didn't think that I would probably do in a way. And I was so cringe. I was battling with the cringe. And then as I talk about in that episode, I really came to peace with it. I'm really glad that I cried, even though it was something that I wasn't planning. It just kind of like flew out of me.
Yeah, of course.
But that was really cringe.
You don't really like cringe back when you think about it.
No.
Which is amazing.
I did, but no. Now I don't care, firstly. And also I'm glad, you know, like I think I'm glad about that. And I also don't like it at work. Really big ick, which I guess is a similar thing to cringe, is when people try to put themselves above you.
Oh, God.
Or like, I'm this and you're this.
Yeah.
No, that's something that if I ever do that, I will be mortified. Because that's obviously, of course, like when you're in like a bit of a higher position, you need to like delegate work and all of that. But there's a way that you can do that
without feeling like
making yourself higher. That when people try to make themselves higher, I think like, who do you think you are?
Exactly,
you know, that's really cringe.
Literally.
So those would probably be. But I also don't think crying at work is cringe at all. Just to say, but that was a very cringe moment for me.
You,
How about you?
I think at work, like I think for me overall, like really like office corporate spaces, they make me cringe overall. I think the dynamics of it, of like going to this place and someone is like, and the language you need to, sometimes, you know, I cringe at work, which is very random. Sometimes I think, why I cringe at that? But really cringe with like really like overly like professional language that means anything.
Okay.
Or means nothing, sorry. Like, you know, like, oh, let's reassess the idea to reach the numbers of the KPI. You know, all that language that feels so, that literally means two things. When I feel like, and maybe that's just me because I really like, even though I work in a very corporate environment, which is nothing wrong about it. It's just saying like, even though I feel like maybe I'm not programmed, but maybe it's not my forte or my preferred space to be, even though I am. And I always respect people that feels happy with it. But it's just like when there's things that you can say like straight directly with two words and you add all these words to kind of like show up that you are professional, that makes me cringe.
Yeah.
It's
I
like,
think, no, I can see you cringing at that. Maybe it's because you don't feel slightly comfortable in that space, like you were saying, and it's a bit like, why am I having to hear this? Because
it's probably my problem.
You know,
obviously, it's not others' problem. It's my problem. I just feel like sometimes, which I think like when you were telling your story about crying, I really appreciate that. And I was like, if we had a bit more of that, I do understand that language and those layers of things are important to make those environments to work smoothly because there's too many personalities. But I feel like if we have more honesty and like direct communication and less words of like blah 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 blah, I think things will work a bit better and we will have way less emails to go back and forward as well.
Totally.
I don't know, I just think that makes me really cringe.
Anyway, guys, what do you guys think about cringing?
Maybe cringe less and maybe be free like,
exactly.
Like Taylor Swift. Oh well, J-Lo, I mean, she's been doing well her whole life.
She really has. And Taylor, look at
Taylor.
Like, she's fine.
It's like zero cringe. And,
I don't think she cringes.
I don't think she cringes.
I don't think she cares, frankly.
That's honestly. Why, like, maybe that's the key of being successful.
Maybe.
In ways. Who knows?
Let's see. But guys, thank you so much for watching.
Thank you so much, guys. And a quick reminder, if you are here, please remember to vote for us in the British Podcast Awards. And thank you very much for your support. Yes. Follow us, like us, on all of these things.
See you next week.
Bye,
guys.
See ya.